I want to thank everyone for joining us today for another 30-minute Expert Series webinar. Today we're going to be talking about B2W Maintain and managing parts and inventory. We'll also look at the integration of parts and inventory with other areas of Maintain so we can show you some efficiencies of how it can work throughout the product. So before we get started here, let's do some introductions. My name is Mark Hooks. I'm a Senior Solutions Engineer here at B2W Software. I've been with the company for almost 12 years. I was a trainer, implementer, and then now I work with the sales team to do the product presentations like we're doing today. Alongside me is Ms. Jen Angrisano. Jen is a business analyst and really a product specialist for our B2W Maintain element. Jen's going to be taking on a somewhat silent role today. She's going to monitor the questions panel, but I will definitely bring her into any question that may be a little bit outside of my expertise. This is a pretty short half-hour session, and we do encourage folks to ask questions along the way, and we'll do our very best to get those questions answered. If it's a question that's more specific to your business, we may need to hold off and address those offline, or Jen will do her absolute best to get those answered directly. So what we're going to be doing today, we're going to do a quick overview of B2W Maintain. We'll also, in PowerPoint, do a quick introduction to the concept of using parts and inventory. And then we're going to actually open up B2W Maintain and show you how it all works together. Should have some time at the end also to take questions as we're wrapping things up. So since we do have some folks on the webinar today that are not using B2W Maintain, let's just do a quick overview. As you guys know, equipment management can be one of the most costly areas in your company. Your equipment's either making you money or costing you money. A lot goes into keeping your equipment up and, again, making you money. It's a combination of managing and streamlining the incoming repair requests. And that's really requests of any kind. That's your break fix repair request. It could be your request for ongoing preventative maintenance. And then there's work order creation, processing those work orders, assigning those work orders for us on a multi-day schedule to your mechanics or your outside shops. It's managing timesheets to get your time from your mechanics into your accounting system, warranties at the parts, and also multiple levels at the equipment level. Then you have parts, you have inventory, you have purchase orders, and really all of this is what B2W Maintain can do for you. In addition, you get enterprise-wide visibility of your equipment status, location, repair history, repair costs all in one spot. And with the B2W One operations platform, there's really real-time interaction with the guys in the field using our B2W Track and also with the dispatcher using our B2W Schedule element. So why are we even talking about parts and inventory? What can that do for your organization? Well, it really all starts with a centralized parts list of stocked and non-stocked parts that all your mechanics can pull from. That creates some consistency and also some standardization. Nobody's having to write things down. You got different misspellings and things like that. It gives a centralized parts list for people to pull from. And when you're talking about inventory, you really need a scalable system that can handle large or small inventories and really able to accommodate multiple locations. And really all this comes together to make it much easier for your mechanics to add parts to their work orders, which means parts cost will be correctly allocated to your equipment. And with these processes in place, it really gives you better, more accurate reporting of overall repair cost. And as you guys all know, time is money. It all leads to a more streamlined purchasing, inventory process, and you guys know those processes can be very time-consuming and costly. So now we've kind of gone through the concepts of what we're going to be talking about today. Let's open up B2W Maintain and show you really how it all comes together. So we're going to leave the world of PowerPoint, and this is our B2W operations platform. And I was talking about, we're going to be talking about Maintain today, but with the one operations platform, you're seeing we can schedule your resources out, equipment moves, material hauls. We can track your production in the field. And this is how the way we built this all sits on one single platform. So as things happen, everything's talking to everything else. It's really enterprise visibility across all the different elements that you're seeing on screen. So, information that we're going to be talking about today, we're also going to be looking at some of the reporting that we're going to have in the back end of Maintain. You can even start to see some of that right here with key performance indicators on, how many emergent repairs are you doing, planned, preventative, scheduled compliance, are you getting your work done on time? So information is key overall, even within the parts and inventory pieces that I'm going to be showing you today. So we're going to open up B2W Maintain and start the what you're really here to see today. So here in B2W Maintain, you're going to see across the top are the different areas that we have in the product. And we're going to be touching on a few different areas today during the demonstration. We're going to be talking about here on the dashboard, you can see that this is everything for the manager to see what's going on. But we'll be looking a little bit into work orders and see how that integrates with parts and inventory. Even your preventative maintenance programs, how we can integrate preventative maintenance with the parts list and things. Even your equipment profiles. You can even build, equipment specific parts list, and then you have parts, you have inventory, and we'll also be delving a little bit into the purchasing realm to see how that works with parts and inventory as well. But we're going to start with parts because it really all starts here. Parts, it's really a database containing both stocked and non-stock parts. And parts, whether inventoried or not, are there for users to add to work orders. Create, again, specific parts lists for equipment. Add them to your preventative maintenance programs. Add your parts to inventory. Keep track of warranties at the part level. We'll be looking at that a little bit today as well. And also working within your purchase order system. So there's really a lot of ways that B2W Maintain can take advantage of a stored centralized parts list to give you the ability to really keep track of overall cost or repair cost on any asset. So if you look up here, this is my parts list that I have in the system. Parts list can be any part. You can show all parts. You can filter down to parts by different categories because we have different categories built in for the parts in the system. Show me parts with warranty. Show me parts with a category. There's also a business unit that we can load in for the parts. So maybe you're using parts in different locations. You want to parse them out by division of your company. A lot of ways that we can use those business units to do that. And truly, a simple search feature. If I'm looking for a filter, every letter I type narrows down that search. So very easy to find what you're looking for here on screen. And you have some of that capability when you're in, say, a work order looking for a part as well. And then for each part, for the fuel filter cartridge I have highlighted, you'll notice here that it can be very simple. It could just be a unit of measure, cost. Again, there's that business unit, manufacturer, notes. There's all kinds of things we can store. But in addition, you also can store attachments here in the parts level. Here I've got my hard copy warranty, but it can be any kind of attachment you want to put in there. To follow with warranty, down at the bottom, I also have a warranty set up for this part. I've got a 90-day warranty, which basically says if I try to replace that part on the same piece of equipment within 90 days after I initially placed it, when I try to pull that onto a work order, it's going to tell me that there's a warranty and I should go look at that. We also can store vendor information at the part level. That's if you're using our purchase order system. And also purchase order history. Every time this part hit a purchase order, we have that in here as well. And then also we have our inventory history. Every time somebody touches this part, whether it's pulled on a work order, where was it pulled from, it deducted it from the overall inventory. Did I adjust my inventory? Did I update the place? Did I take it off the shelf and maybe put it on a service truck? Did I receive inventory inside the purchase order system? But every time that the inventory is managed in any way, it's always going to be within the part itself. But also you'll see here in just a second inside the inventory area. Now, you can add new parts right here on screen. You can edit information for your parts. But we also have the ability to import parts into the system to save you a huge amount of time. Let me show you what an import sheet would look like. Here is how simple it can be. It could be the description of the part number, again, the business unit. There's your categories. These are all user defined. What's the unit cost of that part going to be? How it's being costed out, if you want to enter manufacturer, minimum inventory, reorder quantities. So these are the elements that we can actually pull in electronically into that parts list. Let me show you how that works. I'm going to close this out here, and we'll go in and show you. Underneath our system here, we actually can import resources into the system, and one thing being parts. I'm going to use that comma separated resource import. And then from there, these are all the different things. I can pull parts, and you'll also notice I can pull parts inventory on that same kind of import. So I'm going to choose parts and hit next. And then I'm going to choose the file that we're going to be pulling in. We're putting in that parts listing import that I just showed you. Open that up. And you'll also notice you have choices on how you want that import to react with your parts list. Are we just updating records that already exist? Are we only adding new parts to the list? Are we doing both? And we're going to put here, we're going to update any information like quantity and things like that. And then we're also going to add new records. When I hit next, this is where you don't have to work a whole lot to set up your import sheet in any kind of fashion, because we can map those columns into where they need to go. So each of these, and the one I'm missing here that I left out for you, is say that you just open it up, and these are the headers that are on that spreadsheet. And in this case, I want to match business unit to business unit. But each of those columns, and we do have required columns that have to be filled in, but the rest is up to you on how much information you want to put in. You hit next, and it'll tell you what's going to happen. 6 parts will be updated. 2 parts were going to be created that I already don't have in the list. I hit import, done and done. It tells me that all 8 parts were processed, 2 parts were created, 6 parts for records were not updated because there was no change in there. And if there's any errors to that, you'll also see a view import error log as well. So very easy for you to manage those parts either on screen or through this import. All right, so let's go back into Maintain. Now that you've seen the parts area, let's move over to inventory, where you can show where a part's stored, how many, record quantities, reorder quantities, minimum levels. You'll also be able to see very easily if you're running below those minimum levels on screen, but we're going to show you some other ways that you can manage those minimums and see those in real time as well. So let's go right over to the inventory section. This is B2W Maintain inventory. So inventory is really the parts you keep in stock at your shop or shops that you want to be able to track. And with Maintain, you can have different locations, different bins, drawers, shelves, all user-defined locations for your inventory. And as you saw on that previous screen, we also have an import for inventory, or again, you can make manual adjustments on screen. So when you look at the headers here, we have the parts description, we have the part ID, again, we have the category, the buyer, again, for our purchase order system. The place is really where that part sits, what location it's in. And then you have some numbers here that all lead over to what we call a net position. You have your current inventory that you have on the shelf at that location. You have your on-order inventory. That's if you're using our purchase order system and you got things on order. You've got your allocated inventory. That's when you put a part on a work order, but it's not been finished up yet. So it's a soft pull because we think it's most likely going to be used. You have your minimums for each of those locations. You can even put in your reorder quantity. But these numbers here are all leading over to what we call a net position. As long as that net position is above 0, you have enough parts at that location to manage your day. And you can even sort by each of the columns. So if I click the button here, I can see which locations and which parts that I need to start ordering parts. And you can even, pop open a part here that's in inventory and see for the shop, it's in bin number 84. Current inventory is 2. My minimums are 20. I need to get 18 on the shelf. So what I need, I can actually import those numbers in, or I can come right here and I can adjust my inventory. I can put in my new quantity, but also I have the ability to update the place and maybe move it from here, maybe to a service truck or to another shop. I have that ability to do that right here on screen as well. And then at the top, you'll also see there's the same search feature. Again, if I'm looking for a filter, I can do that. If I want to look at things just by category, I can set some filters on the screen. There's a few different filter types. Category, and I want to look at batteries, and I want to look at filters on the page. Hit apply, and there's that information for me based on what I have in the system. So again, very easy to find whatever you're looking for in the system right there on screen. Now you've seen how the parts starts all of this and how it folds over into the inventory. We got a lot more things to kind of show you in the ending of this 30 minutes. I want to show you how some of the other parts of the system integrate with the work that you've done here, putting your inventory and parts list in place. Let's start with the work order. When we go to the work order section, work order integration is huge. As you use a part, we automatically remove it from inventory. So I'm going to open up a work order here and show you how that works. We're going to go down to that filter clogged again, and we're going to put this in edit mode. Here you can see there's the work order, there's the asset that we're working on. Down below, all the different items, and you can have multiple items or requests in a work order. And way down at the bottom here is a parts area. When I add parts here, and I can do parts from a equipment specific list. Again, I mentioned earlier, that's another use of your parts list, is to build equipment specific parts list. Or I can search through my entire parts list, and again, looking for a filter, very easy to find. I pick it off, I hit next. This is where I actually have two different quantities. I have the estimated quantity, which is what you think you're going to need. And that's when you put your parts, and we'll look at this in just a second, into your preventative maintenance programs. They come in as an estimated quantity. But when I actually use the part, I put my quantity there. And again, I can pull that out of my inventory. And then I hit save. When I hit this save button on a reported quantity, it's actually going to pull it out of your inventory. Done and done. And to show that, I'm going to go back over to the parts listing. And we're going to go back into that filter cartridge, and we're going to look at the inventory history. So there's the work order that I just worked with on this date, where at shop on 2nd Avenue, I pulled that part out of bin number 9, and there's one that was pulled. So again, that automatic integration saves a huge amount of time that you're not manually having to adjust your inventory. We'll do it all for you as you work in your work orders. Okay. Another area is your preventative maintenance program. So let's go here and take a look at your PMs. PMs are a big, huge part of any system in keeping your equipment fleet up and healthy. They're basically reminders for anything that needs to be done. It can be routine service, it could be yearly registration, whatever you want to set up a reminder, but they're critical in making sure that you keep your equipment fleet up and healthy and not missing anything on your equipment. And you can see here with my excavator maintenance, I have all the different levels of service, what needs to be done for each level of service. We also have the intervals in place here. This is what fires off the preventative maintenance request. But again, with the use of your parts, you can go ahead and layer in parts list for this level of service. So when this piece of equipment hits that 100-hour threshold or that 3-month threshold, when that automated request comes over, it's already got your parts list in there. Again, saving you huge amounts of time, and also just making sure you're not forgetting things that you need to put into that work order for that repetitive service or preventative maintenance that you're doing. Okay, one more area is our purchase order system. If you're using purchase orders within B2W Maintain, here's what it looks like. Here's a purchase order. When you create a PO, you get a unique number, you've got your tax, you've got your bill to, you've got your ship to information, and there's the parts that are part of this purchase order. Now, simply, I could come here and add parts, and I can pull parts from that standard parts list. There's also a way that we can interact to make things easier for you on the things that you need to order, in addition to the things you want to order. And by that, I mean, if you go to order parts and you click on purchase requisition list, we're going to create a PO, but I'm going to count your shelves for you. By opening this screen, I have found everything that has a net position below 0 or any work orders that are sitting out there waiting on a part to be ordered associated with a work order. So that way, again, your inventory tech's not having to go out and count every shelf to figure out what you need. everything's being done in multiple areas of the system so that we can really streamline these processes for you. So you would basically pick off the parts that you want to order, and that would create the purchase order that you're seeing in the background. And you can even receive your parts on the screen back into your inventory. So if you go here and say, I want to receive my parts, well, in here I've got my fuel filter cartridge. We ordered 5. We've already got a couple back. We only got 3 remaining. So let's say I get the 3 in, I put them here. And now for shop on 2nd Avenue, I'm going to say I'm going to put it in that drawer, in that bin 9 for 17, add 3, and now we're going to have 20 there when I save this and go back to inventory. So really now you can see how a centralized parts list can really play across the system, feeding into inventory, work order management with parts and also inventory. You've got your preventative maintenance that can use this information, all the way to your equipment profiles where you can build parts lists to make it easy for your mechanics to find what they're looking for. But also if you're using the purchase order system, how we can interact with a simple parts list, or if you're using inventory, I can count your shelves for you and save you a huge amount of time in creating your work orders. There are also reports that we have in the back of the system. In Maintain, tons and tons of reports. We have cost reports that you can keep track of the cost, labor and parts cost across your repairs. But if you'll notice down here, there's an inventory adjustment report that'll show you what you've moved around. But here is one that I like to show. It's called the part inventory listing. I'm going to open that one up for you. This is one that you can set up to show you, maybe I only want to look at certain parts. Maybe I only want to look at parts that have a percent above the minimum inventory. They're getting close to running out. The count above the minimum inventory. Lots of filtering and things you can do, but you'll notice the ones that it's going to show you where they're already below the count. In this case, it's that fuel water separator cartridge. I have 18, but my minimums are 20. So we highlight that in red for you to show you that you have parts that are gone below those minimum thresholds. Another thing about the reports that we have in the system, we're using a full SQL database. So there's SQL functionality in the back end that I could actually set this report up to be emailed to me every Monday morning. So before I even enter the system, I'm going to get information on how I need to manage some of the parts and inventory that I have. All right, so that is what I wanted to show you today. A quick overall look at B2W Maintain, with the focus on the use of parts and inventory, and really the efficiencies of how it all fits together, again, with work orders, PMs, purchasing, and reporting, to make things much more efficient in managing and applying your parts to your daily work. Well, folks, we're going to leave the world of the program here. We're going to go back over to PowerPoint. If you have any questions, go ahead and put those in. If there's things that you're looking for today. The question is, can techs request parts for a given work order item? Jen, do you know what that would be related to? I might need a little more information unless you have specifics on that.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the tech can request on the tablet, they can estimate parts the same as a manager could, and that's your, I guess, way to notify a manager that a part is needed by estimating those parts on the work order on the tablet.
So it'd be your estimated quantity on the work order for the tablet rather than the reported quantity, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Correct. Cool. Okay. Awesome. Well, folks, just while we're seeing if there's any more questions while we're wrapping up here, take a look out for our next webinar. We're trying to do these once a month or even more often. The next one's going to be on September 17th. We're going to be talking about assigning crews and production targets with scheduling software. It looks like we got another. How do the parts PO handle back ordered parts? Inside the purchase order system, you're basically putting in the parts that you've gotten. There's notes and things in there where you can put in documentation either attached to show back order lists, or you can put actual notes into the PO to show that you have back ordered parts. But you can also do partial receipts of parts like I did there. I already had a couple that came in. Those 3 that came in later were probably on back order, but you have notes that you can do that you can indicate exactly what's going on in your work, in your POs. Okay. All right. So as always, we will email you a recording of this session for the folks who couldn't be here today. So anybody that registered will get a recorded session that we can hand it off to the folks in your office. If we've got folks who use the product who have questions about things they saw today, then absolutely give our support department a call. We'll get those answers to you. If there's folks online who are not using the product and they need a demonstration of the product, always call our sales department. That way we can jump on and do a much more in-depth demo for you. So we want to, on behalf of Jen and myself, I really want to thank you for attending today's webinar. And again, keep a lookout for future webinars. Thank you very much.